shift number 6 is academic vocabulary. And so what the Common Core is asking of us is to consistently develop students' ability to use and access words that are showing up in everyday text but are maybe slightly out of reach or taking us to the next level of grade level complexity, rather than a focus on, for example, literary terms or scientific terms. First of all, John, do you think this is the right shift for us as a state? And second, what do you think the challenges are for us as we try to do this?
Sure. It's absolutely the right shift. I think it's really about giving students the right tools, right? And there are certain words that are great tools because you're going to see them in lots of contexts. You're going to see them when you read. You're going to see them across different disciplines. There are other words that are interesting. They may come up in certain areas, in a very specific domain of knowledge, like amoeba, or they may be words that are sort of esoteric and interesting, but they're not words that you're going to confront frequently as you read. And so I think it's important to be strategic about the kind of vocabulary that we're developing, whether we're talking about second graders or seventh graders or 12th graders, for that matter. I think that one of the challenges is figuring out which words fall into which category. Right? Isabel Beck talks about tier 1 words as very common words, tier 2 words as words that are powerfully useful, frequently occurring, and then tier 3 words as words that are very domain specific. Figuring out which are the tier 2 words, and then once you figure out which are the tier 2 words, figuring out which ones am I going to teach, right? Because I may find in a paragraph that I'm going to teach, I may find 10 tier 2 words. Well, I can't possibly teach all 10 tier 2 words very thoroughly and still get to the heart of the matter with the reading. And so again, it goes back to this issue of careful planning, I think, and strategic thinking about how to support students' skill development.
Right. Like if I look at King's letter in paragraph 20, in one paragraph, there are about 10 words, to your point. So there's distinction, advocate, evading, defying, anarchy, willingness, penalty, arouse, conscience, injustice. So these are the words that we're talking about, right? And giving students the ability to access these words.
And sometimes there are particular words where the nuance matters very much. I think one of the things I like about Beck is she talks about how people over-rely on synonyms, right? And that causes you to miss really critical nuance, So happy and pleased, right? The author makes a choice between those words, and that choice is meaningful. And so I think, one way to try and identify the right tier 2 word to teach is what's the word where the choice of word has a big significance in what the author is conveying, right? That's one way to narrow the list. Another is to say, well, what's the word that they're really going to see most frequently? Maybe even in this same text, so that teaching the word there in paragraph 4 helps you, helps you later on as you work your way through the text. But it's really hard. I mean, I don't want to understate, the sort of complexity of thinking strategically about vocabulary. And I think in a history classroom or science classroom, it can sometimes be even harder because you've got a number of tier 2 words and a number of tier 3 words, and some of those tier 3 words really are critical to what you're trying to teach. And so you've got to address both. So, I think this is an area where there's lots of opportunity for good professional development.
And, I was thinking what you're saying about synonyms, and one thing that I think that suggests is we may even teach fewer words, but teach the webs around them. Because what the vocabulary research shows us is when you really learn a word fully, you learn not only that word, but a web of words around it, including its opposites. Let me give you just a quick example. If I take the word ignite, and it shows up in the text, and we quickly give a synonym, like stimulate or start. Let's say we do that, we're done. But what if you went one step further and said, well, why not just say start or stimulate? If they meant that, why not say that? Like you said, what's the force of the choice? And then you might say, well, ignite has fire in it. It has flame in ignite, like ignite a match. Oh, got it, right? And then when a student reads ignite the passion, they see flame. But not only that, when they read cool the passion, they're more likely to understand cooling the passion.
That's right.
Because they've seen ignite with passion, and so they see the, and since now they've got flame with it. So what the research is interestingly clear on is that understanding the force of word choice in the way you're describing and the way words have those impacts allows you not just learn the word in front of you, but many. And that's why, to be rather civic, the 4th standard in reading asks you not only to determine the meaning of words from context, but to evaluate the impact of the choices of specific words.
So that's a real shift in attention on the part of the teacher. and a shift in the way I'm thinking about the class before I teach it and planning.
I think that's exactly right. I think that's exactly right. And again, it may mean for some words, because you can't address all of the words, you give the students the synonyms so that you can move past it.
Yeah.
But then there are other words that you really invest in and you teach in the way that David just talked about, teaching the word ignite. And when you ask students to write in response to the text, then you also ask them to use those words when they're responding, so that you can not only see that they can figure out the word as a reader, but now that they can own the word as a writer in a way that is nuanced.
Yep.